So, it's obviously been a week and several days since I made my last video covering the Kero the Wolf scandal, and honestly, quite a bit has changed. A lot more information has come to light as to Kero the Wolf's guilt rather than his innocence, and the only thing that the Kero the Wolf is innocent party seems to have is the hypothetical nature of the assertion that anybody could have made up the logs from the client end, that the logs that you saw throughout the internet have been fabricated, and that the only people that are trying to bring down Kero's good name are trolls. Kero the Wolf himself has made only light appearances in the public eye, namely through various announcements on Twitter. And I say that very loosely because there have only been one or two real consecutive announcements that he's made, basically addressing one particular claim, in which case he pointed out the fact that he lacks a tattoo that one of the people in one of the videos seem to have over their left nipple, and that his facial characteristics, as well as that of the skin tone and eye color of the individual showcased in the screen cap that he had taken, does not match up to his own. However, apart from that, he hasn't really been that, active, in a sense. He seems to be taking a break. He did, however, appear in two particular interviews, one with Kothorix, however, that was text-based, and the other with Ashley Zoe Fox, in which case he was, side by side, talking to him face-to-face on camera. I have to say that his behavior alone is enough to convince me of his guilt. He seems like that of a child that has been, accused of doing something, wrong, that they know that they did was wrong, but they're trying to appear innocent. They maintain 2 seconds of eye contact before looking left, looking right, and then looking down at their hands, which they are constantly wringing throughout the entire video. And I get it. Kero the Wolf is probably under a lot of mental strain right now. He's probably undergoing a lot of stress, and he's probably not feeling on top of the world like he used to. And a lot of people haven't really done much to, make him feel any better. A couple have, but those people seem to be just his hardcore fans that will probably follow him to the ends of the earth. Me, myself, the interviews are interesting because if Ashley Zoe Fox is anything to go off of, he claims that the interviews were done within hours, as in, a 4-hour time span. So, and that's a very significant part of this because, Kero the Wolf's story changed a little bit. Kothorix pressured Kero the Wolf to basically answer whether or not the chat logs were in fact real. And Kero's response was that they were real, but some of it was faked. And so he gave a very different response to Ashley Zoe Fox. He said, some of it was real, some of it was fake. He seems to contradict himself every time that he gives testimony or an answer as to whether or not the chat logs are in fact real or fake. And that's bringing more and more of a question as to whether or not he's truly guilty or innocent. Also, in the Kothorix interview, he denied any association with one Snake Thing. However, in that same interview, he eventually admitted that he knew Snake Thing, but it was only on a casual basis and that they only shared artwork. And if you read the chat logs, that's definitely not the case. So, anyway, I'm making this video as a sort of announcement that I am going to make a larger video that covers the entire, Kero the Wolf story from start to finish until, today. Obviously, traction's kind of, been lessening a bit ever since the police got involved. There isn't really a whole lot of information out there besides what we already know, in spite of the fact that several people that were close to Kero not only confirmed his Telegram ID number, which is unique to any particular Telegram ID account, but also that various facts throughout Kero's life and various hints and clues that led up to this point have been present throughout the chat logs themselves. So I'm inclined to believe that the chat logs themselves are, for all intents and purposes, real and valid, and that this was not just a fabrication by Iranian super hackers that picked Kero for whatever reason to bring him down. I think that the narrative here is more along the lines of Kero the Wolf. And again, before I continue, I would just like to say I am just purely speculating here based on the information I have on hand, as well as, general reasoning skills and logic. Kero the Wolf on, September 16th, 2018, he must have been tipped off somehow that somebody found out about his proclivities, or that Snake Thing aka pseudonym, I'm speculating that they are one and the same person because one of the two had to have leaked the logs, if not through a hacker. And I'm more inclined to believe that Snake Thing is the one that leaked their logs because Kero the Wolf is the one bearing the brunt of the allegations set forth against him, as well as the moral outrage. I'm thinking that Kero the Wolf was tipped off that Snake Thing was going to reveal his deep, dark secrets to the public, or somebody warned him that Snake Thing was going to do said, sort of activity. So Kero the Wolf decides to make up a story on the fly, saying that he had been hacked, that he couldn't get back to his account, and that he was kicked out, and that he had been compromised. And then he deleted his account. And on his Patreon page, you can clearly see, later, that Telegram access has been shut down because of allegations set forth against him. So it's slightly different from the hacking narrative that would have been very convenient for him. So a few days later, on the 18th going into the 19th, Venus is a Bun releases the chat logs publicly and basically showcases the fact that Kero the Wolf is into some nasty things and that he's sort of spearheading a sort of moral crusade against Kero the Wolf as being a zoophile and a necrophile and various other files that I will not mention here at this time. So from there on, at the very beginning, Kero the Wolf dismisses this all as a hoax, that all of the chat logs have been fabricated, and that all of this has been done by hackers, and that he reasserts that the screen caps that he had taken at the time of the hacking, allegedly, were to prove that he had been hacked, and that, everyone jumping on the bandwagon of hate on Kero were all trolls, viciously trying to bring his good name through the dirt. Then he went silent for a bit, and, you plainly got to see throughout all of social media that people went back and forth as to whether Kero the Wolf was guilty or innocent. And I'm sure you all know the contentious nature of political discourse these days. People weren't holding back. They weren't holding punches. You just saw the hatred and vitriol come out and the challenging of one's belief that Kero the Wolf is innocent versus the Kero the Wolf is guilty. And, there really wasn't any consecutive way to tell whether or not Kero the Wolf was in fact guilty or innocent. I'm sure that none of this would really hold up in a court of law, but in the court of public opinion, it comes down to what the crowd believes. And, I'm not going to deny that mob mentality definitely played a role here, and a lot of people just sort of got caught up in the moment and decided that Kero the Wolf was guilty. However, Kero the Wolf came out later, and he picked one particular shred of evidence and stated that my physical characteristics do not match the individuals that are showcased in this particular screenshot that I took. Therefore, because I don't have his tattoo, and that my facial features do not match his, that I am innocent, and that this was all a hoax, chat logs can be faked, and you all fell for it. So, up to that point, the public response had been that Kero the Wolf was absolutely guilty. A lot of people were just, voicing their opinions throughout all social media as well as on YouTube. You saw a plethora of YouTube videos basically condemning Kero the Wolf. Very few people at that time were, advocating for Kero the Wolf's innocence, but a few were. And so people were automatically making apology videos saying, oh gosh, Kero the Wolf, I'm so sorry. And, even PK Russell came out. I didn't appreciate the way that he addressed the masses, but he came out and said basically that, we were all idiots, that anyone could hack, VPN if they so wished, that VPNs weren't quite as secure as we all believed them to be, and that Telegram itself is not as secure as it is, believed to be. However, as the skeptics in the community reviewed all of the, evidence that has been presented towards them, various, facts about the chat logs corresponded with Kero the Wolf's everyday life. For instance, certain videos that he was working on at the time and released later correspond almost exactly with the, chat logs themselves, and him mentioning it casually to Snake Thing. And the way that the chat logs read is very casual. Like, the flows are very organic. You can actually believe that these are two individuals having a conversation together. It's not robotic like some people trying to set Kero up, conveniently. And even Boozy Badger seems to agree with me that the chat logs at least showcase two individuals coming together and having a conversation about their day-to-day life as well as their proclivities on a selective basis. Now, obviously, mutual interest there. They're probably going to be focusing a lot on that. That's the bulk of the incriminating evidence against Kero at this point. the fact that they were sharing some incriminating, imagery as well as material, and that the things that Kero the Wolf was saying doesn't quite match up with his, statements during the interview that was purely about the artwork, or it was about the fantasies. I'm inclined to believe that he might have acted upon all, some of those fantasies based on his own admission, if the chat logs are to be believed to be real, which Kero the Wolf said they were in one of the interviews. In another of the interviews, he says they were mostly fake, but some of it was real. So, still inconclusive as to the word of Kero the Wolf, but based on how dishonest he has been with the public, it's harder and harder for me to hold hope out that he is in fact innocent. I am starting to believe that he's guilty of at least some of the allegations set forth against him. As to what extent that will take, I am not entirely sure at this time, but I can definitely say that, I reserved any judgment up until now because I wanted all the facts to come to light. And, I've been collating all this in my video. And I've actually had to, modify the video several times because this is supposed to chronicle the entire timeline from start to finish as we know it today. Now, as to whether or not, various people are justified in, their stances, it really comes down to the evidence that was knowledgeable to them at the time versus what they found out later. And I have to say, this entire debacle has been very messy from start to finish. I mean, you had Mr. Metokur highlight the fact that, furries are basically characterized as zoophiles, that we have a zoophilia problem and a necrophilia problem and a basically, sexual problem. And he made not just one, but two videos, one as a follow-up in response to Ashley Zoe Fox's, and live streamed a lot of very damaging content. And I have to say, this kind of publicity isn't what the furry fandom needs, obviously. I mean, I understand that there's a lot of hatred and division between us right now, but I'm sure that we, at the end of the day, can probably, look at this and probably understand that this is going to be very damaging to our image, our collective image, and we're not going to walk away from this, without any sort of damage to our public relations, towards people that aren't in the furry fandom. And as to whether that will affect us in the future, I can't say, but as far as the internet community is concerned, we are just as guilty as Kero the Wolf, whether or not that is justified or not. So for those defending Kero the Wolf, I'm not going to castigate you, but I will say that you should probably acknowledge some of the evidence that's being presented forthwith for your own judgment, and whether or not that you truly believe Kero the Wolf is innocent, or if you're just trying to hold on to the blind hope that he is. I'm not going to judge you for it, but it's getting harder and harder to hold on to that sort of train of thought, justifiably. Now, here's what I know. I know that there have been hints and rumors that there actually are videos and some material out there that actually does, show Kero the Wolf doing something with an animal or an animal carcass. And I'm not privy to that information, and nor do I think I really want to see that sort of stuff, but if it's out there, it might be in the hands of police because there is an ongoing police investigation at this time. And, I think the best thing that I could sort of say at this point to sort of bring this all around and bring some closure is that, we should probably just let the police do their job, and the justice system will probably work itself out in the end. Now, obviously, there'd have to be some compelling evidence to find Kero the Wolf guilty, but if there is, he might be arrested, and he might face prison sentence. Kero the Wolf himself has confirmed that he is under police investigation, that he gave his testimony, but, again, that could be inconclusive. I really don't want anybody to exacerbate this problem any more than it already has been, so please don't go out of your way to harass or, torment Kero the Wolf. But, again, me personally, if I was at a furry con and I saw Kero the Wolf walking around, I probably wouldn't be opening my arms for a hug. Just saying. I'd probably avoid him, probably just acknowledge his existence, but, keep him at arm's length. That's really all you can do at this point. I think that the death threats and the threats of violence and various other things are, kind of immature and probably should stop. But, again, I'm not really the moral authority here. I can't go out of my way to tell you what to do or not to do in your day-to-day life. So, Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm just a guy on the internet giving commentary on an ongoing piece of drama that has been affecting the furry fandom from at least September 16th up till today. And as far as closure goes, I'm not sure we're going to find some, at least not yet. But I will say that even PK Russell, from his first video to his second video, apologized in light of various evidence in defending why he thought the way he did at the time of his first video. And Mr. Metokur definitely went out of his way to make this, a subject of interest. This might cause a deeper sort of conversation with the furry fandom at large than, we'd warrant as, being necessary. But, at present, just do what you can do to improve the image of the furry fandom if you so wish. Don't engage in degenerate activity and try to be, the change that you want to see in the furry fandom. Anyway, I'm going to get back to work on the video that I've been working on and off. It's not exactly a topic that I relish, talking about. Obviously, the subject matter is a bit abhorrent, and I've seen things that, quite frankly, would prompt me to pour bleach right down my eyes and down my throat. Anyway, with that being said, I will see you all next video, guys. Take care and peace.